Okay, so I mentioned this in my Pokemon Unite tier list video, but I want to talk about Pokemon I feel could already use a nerf when the game comes out. And yes, I know there's an argument that a 60-hour beta test isn't enough time to determine if a Pokemon is too strong or too weak, but that's the cool thing about balance, that if you overshoot one of the changes, you can just reel it back in. But some of the things I experienced in my playtime with Pokemon Unite just did not feel healthy for the early state of the game while people were still trying to figure things out. Just a couple of Pokemon were a little too far ahead and did little too much filthy stuff, or maybe they're actually just straight up broken and they need a nerf because, again, the game is still in its infancy. So I've already gone on end about Crustal absolutely needing a nerf because some of the things it's doing, all the things it's doing are completely unacceptable. And I feel like the biggest change that Crustal needs is like everything getting dialed back. Now, one problem with the beta and the testing and all these things that have been going on, even back to the Canadian beta or the Switch network test and all that other stuff, is that we don't have the full values. It's not like League of Legends where you go onto the wiki and then you see everything, the exact numbers, the exact scaling, the ratios on all the Pokemon. We still don't even know how the items really work and how all those numbers fit in. So it's not like, oh, you just need to knock off 0.2 scaling on this and it's set. So the balance for this is going to be a little more ambiguous. But I think it's going to kind of make sense, because all you need to do is just knock down every value of Crustal just a little bit. I think that puts it in a pretty good state. It gets way too tanky at low health with Sturdy to the point of becoming pretty much unkillable. And then we have Shell Smash. All the values from Shell Smash need to go down. Less speed, less damage, more defense lost. Because again, like, this Pokemon just becomes unkillable, and it becomes, and you guys are probably tired of me saying this, but I will keep on saying it because it's the fastest, highest damage, tankiest Pokemon in the game for like 4 out of 6 seconds, or 5, however long all this stuff happens. Whenever there's downtime, Crustal's still broken because of its Sturdy ability, so it can just wait for that, and then boom, it comes up, and then X-Scissor needs a nerf as well. All 3 of those hits displacing completely ruin movement dynamics, and I understand that Crustal's supposed to be a tank, and it's supposed to be able to like get in and disrupt, but it makes it impossible to escape Crustal or try to like get on to other characters while Crustal is just doing way too much damage and being way too tanky. And then the Unite move also, I think, like, could use less shield, could use less damage, could just everything, every value just needs to get knocked down a little bit, and I think that should put the Pokemon in a balanced state. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Crustal. I know you guys are tired of me talking about it like this, or maybe you're not. Maybe you actually played in the network test and you had Crustals just completely ruin the game's integrity around you. I don't know. Comment down below. Which Pokemon did you find to be the most unacceptable and most needing of nerfs? Also, some Pokemon you think deserved a buff as well, and then give your overall thoughts on my video. Let's go into the next one, Alolan Ninetales. Oh yeah, like, comment, subscribe while you're at it as well. Alolan Ninetales. The weird thing, if you go to my tier list, is I feel like there's S-tier Pokemon that actually don't need a nerf, and A-tier Pokemon I think could use just a little bit of dialing back. And Alolan Ninetales is an A-tier Pokemon that I think was starting to get really scary as people were just kind of finding alt builds on it. Like, if you go to the most popular builds, these are 80 carry builds. If you give Alolan Ninetales more attack speed and it's proccing its passive more often, it's already more of a CC bot. And I think that that's what needs to be dialed back on Ninetales. It just has too many CC opportunities, and its early laning is very dominant because all you have to do is just land a blizzard or get like some kind of passive proc, and then the opponent's just dead. There's nothing that they can do about it, and you have another ally Pokemon coming in with a little bit of extra CC. That's ridiculous. Or you set it up for a gank, and Alolan Ninetales just feels too safe. What's its endurance? 1.5? Yeah, knock that down to 1. I don't know. It just feels like Alolan Ninetales gets away with a little too much when you're playing around it, and I wish I could say better things about, like, that. I don't know, because Alolan Ninetales is weird. When I played as it, I could see what was making it silly, but I didn't know why it was so silly. I'd like to see, like, the hard numbers and the exact mechanics behind how all of this stuff works, you know? Snow falls around you, your attacks sling snow at opponents, merely approaching Alolan Ninetales damages and slows them due to the cold. 3 consecutive attacks temporarily freeze it. So yeah, you just, like, do auto attacks, but then you can get them all, like, frozen and CC'd and stuff. Summons a Blizzard that slows and displaces opponents. Blizzard can split and travel along terrain. Combo that with Avalanche or Dazzling Gleam. And then Aurora Veil just makes it tankier than it should be and gives like your allies a buff. and what you do is just like sit inside the Aurora Veil, and then you're auto-attacking everything and just CCing it way too easily. I don't know. I think there's just a little too much CC for the amount of damage this Pokemon can put out in a burst, or also just the amount of safety that it has while with like this, merely approaching slows opponents. That's unnecessary. Alolan Ninetales should be allowed to be dived, and even if it like lands abilities, it can still stop a dive. So I think it just has too much of all forms of CC. I mean, if you just kind of read some of this guide stuff, you can't run away when you're CC chained. Description: Ninetales is one of the best Pokemon that has the ability to constantly stack CC onto an enemy, leaving them vulnerable to getting killed and unable to run away without a flash or a blink skill. And it does it from range, and it feels like you can't truly hard insta-burst Ninetales in a lot of situations. So yeah, that's just something to consider. And then we have the next Pokemon that could use a nerf. I'm gonna say Absol. A lot of people have Absol at S tier because it just kind of like shows up and then one-shots them with all this crazy mobility and crits and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a pretty crazy Pokemon, and I think it gets too much damage. I think it gets too much reward for how easy it is to play the character. Because all it has to do is like, you go Pursuit into Sucker Punch, reset the Pursuit, you're getting a million dashes, and then you go in for Midnight Slash and just does a ton of damage. So I think the Pokemon's mobility is fine. It's just the random crits I find to be a really big problem, because it could also be a situation where Absol falls flat if it's just not critting enough. But I think when you're actually dealing with passives that scale or are based around critical hits or bonus damage or something, you can just give it a different critical hit modifier. I feel like if Absol had, 75% less damage than its current crit, but still, enough bonus damage where the crit actually matters, that'd be pretty good, because then it feels like you're not getting just instantly one shot for no reason. And I think just the damage on the ultimate could be reduced as well, because I know the Unite move is supposed to be this big finishing blow, but if Absol's doing like all these dashes and comboing off you, I feel it's just a little too strong of an execute for how much mobility this Pokemon has. Like, it's kind of silly. Rams the opponent from a distance, stunning it, but it comes in from behind because it's Sucker Punch, and then attacks from behind, reduce this move's cooldown. So you jump on them with the Pursuit, you Sucker Punch, get the bonus damage, resetting the Pursuit, and then you just kind of keep on going. Increase movement speed, attack speed is faster as you kind of level it up. Also, Night Slash increases your critical hit rate. If you're like, crits are really weird in the current state of Pokemon Unite, and I feel like when a random crit happens, it just brings too much value for no reason. Like, if we go to the items, Scope Lens, like, critical hit rate, 4%, maxed item at level 30. And this is where, like, having values probably helps, because I feel like Pokemon just randomly crit more as they get higher level and the game goes on. Like, the Super Lux scale, that you start off at, like, a 5% crit chance, and, like, every level you get, like, another 2%, and then Scope Lens also kind of scales in, like, some weird kind of way to where you're level 13 or 14 at the end game, yeah, you're almost critting every single time. But you still don't have like a build path like in League of Legends or other games where you can understand how the crits are coming in. So I think like the crits are just too obscured, and that's also a reason why why Absol can just use like a little bit of dialing back. And again, it just takes no skill to play the character. Like, everything is just gonna be auto targeted since it dashes you up into an auto attack or like elite proc or something. So yeah, you shouldn't be able to get as much damage you get out of this character for the mobility that it has, and then just everything playing itself for free. So Absol, just too strong for being too easy, and even though it is like one of the most frail characters, you're killing them before it even matters, and in a pretty unfair feeling way sometimes. So we got that. Next up, we have Eldegoss. Eldegoss is again a character that I think like all of its stats, all of its values, just a little too strong and a little too weird in how fights end up playing out. Because like Pollen Puff, okay, so you have a delayed heal, but then you also go into Cotton Guard, which is a shield that turns into a delayed heal. So when you just get into that ability rotation where it's like, all right, Pollen Puff, that's a heal, they're low, Cotton Guard, Pollen Puff, Cotton Guard, and you just keep spamming it and just AoE heals. So it's like a small Soraka ult and a Mantra Karma shield every 5 and 7 seconds, and if your ability cooldowns like ever get off tempo, or you need like some extra burst, or you need some extra supportive power, then you just go for your Night move, which is like a Janna ultimate that makes you invincible while doing it, and all the healing happens instantly. So you just get to blow everyone around in the fight, and then do a lot of healing, and just have too much safety, while your passive is also going off. Now I feel like the passive is fine in the later game, but in the early game, also just a little too strong. Like, man, that's just so much going on there. The tank items in Pokemon Unite are also very front-loaded in power, so it can make Pokemon really durable in the early game. So I say get rid of the damage, because that's too much overlap with Rocky Helmet, and instead of restoring your hit points, maybe it should just be a regeneration effect, but like slightly stronger than the actual values are now. That way it has like its own balance and stuff, but it just makes it where like it's really hard to burst down for kind of no reason, because you just take damage and then things happen. Also, I think all you need to do is add one more second. Pollen Puff on a 6-second cooldown, Cotton Guard on a 8-second cooldown, and that means you don't just have to spam, because it requires no skill to play this Pokemon to a degree. Like, you do have to land your Pollen Puffs, and you do have to, like, position, but you don't have to manage cooldowns at all. As long as you're just spamming cooldowns and you're getting as much healing and shielding out there as possible, then you're fine. It's just the fight's just going to last forever. So with a longer cooldown, there's going to be less sustain dragging on fights for a longer time than they need to happen, and it also means you're going to have to use at least 3 brain cells when determining if you should activate now, if you should just wait a little longer so we can get the most out of the power, instead of just spamming everything off cooldown and having no drawbacks whatsoever. And that brings us to the last Pokemon I feel could really use a nerf, and that's Pikachu. Pikachu is absolutely broken. And the weird thing about the test is that people caught on kind of near the end. I'd say like the last 12 hours of the test, everyone knew how stupid Pikachu was, but didn't get a lot of play early on. So I feel like the meta was also starting to develop really quickly, and you just realized how oppressive Pikachu is. It has too much damage from too much range with a little bit of too much CC, and that Thunderstorm is crazy because just like, if you're ever in a problem as Pikachu, you just Thunderstorm it up. So you go untargetable for a little bit, you smash down for some insane damage, and then everything else is also crazy. Like, just displacement abilities, crazy. Like, full tackle, you come in, you displace, you do a ton of damage, and then you can just like follow up by like comboing auto attacks and abilities, and then they're just dead. Or Thunderbolt, you just do it from so far away, doesn't matter. So like, Thunderbolt's crazy. Electro Ball, a sure hit. Just like target them from a screen away, and no matter what, that ball is just going to follow and track them down. If they flash, if they dash away, they're just getting hit, and that's going to be a third of their health. So I mean, and it's all like AoE too. Like, that's another crazy thing about Pikachu. Like, in a fight, it could just be untouchable in the back, just raining down absurd amounts of damage. And then like, if your front line does eventually get taken out or too weak, or you get dove onto, again, that's when you just go and use your Night move, and that's it. So yeah, look at this. 1v9 God, Kite in the Storm. What does this guy have to say about it? Pray that you don't get ganked. Okay, I guess that's it. Pikachu is without a doubt the best Pokemon in the game right now. Now, I personally wouldn't say that, but in my tier list, I had it at S tier, and I'm seeing pretty much everyone put Pikachu at S tier. The reason being is because of its ridiculously long range and its ability to CC the enemy team while dishing out an insane amount of AoE damage. So yeah, the things I said, like, everyone's catching on. Everyone knows what's up with Pikachu, and you know something is wrong if the mage is running physical items. So yeah, that's another thing. Like, you just do an insane, like, if someone actually runs up onto you while your abilities are down, well, then you just do the auto attack proc and they take a ton of damage. Faster auto attacks with the muscle band, also pretty crazy. The mobility off Float Stone. Yeah, the Pokemon is just too good at everything from too insane of range. I feel like nerfing the range, though, is kind of like a last-ditch effort in balance changes that completely guts a character sometimes. So I like Pikachu's range. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Artillery Mage is a subclass of carry in MOBAs, and I think Pikachu is a really, really good Artillery Mage. So yeah, I could just dial back on the damage. If we had the numbers, it'd be a little better. And I think the biggest issue for Pokemon Unite is going to be theme problems, because I could see where Crustal makes a lot of sense, that you're supposed to like set up the wall, but if you're not Shell Smash or trolling, because that's just the best way of playing it. But if you get the wall ability and then you push them into it with your X Scissor, yeah, that's a stun, that's a combo, and maybe you can route multiple characters. But you're not supposed to do as much damage and have as much durability as you have on that character. Same thing with Pikachu. Third attack paralyzing or stunning the opponent makes sense, because that's what you're supposed to do as an electric Pokemon. But it just turns out to be way too strong, and then with static, you know, it slows nearby opponents when you take damage. So if someone gets into you or gets on you, they get slowed, so you get to kite away while charging up that paralysis on your auto attack, and then when they come out stun, your ability cooldowns are off, and that's kind of insane. So it's also interesting because the AoE abilities do have a long-ish cooldown, and you do have, like, it's just too bursty. I really, again, I'd have to see in numbers to really understand the best way of toning down Pikachu, but at this time, it's just a little too strong if not a lot too strong at everything that's kind of doing from range with all the damage and some of these sure hit things that are going on as well. So yeah, Pikachu, S tier. Need to dial it back on that damage. Need to pull it in somehow. And I think that's pretty much going to be it for the Pokemon that need nerfs the most. The thing is, the roster is only 19, so I can't really do a top 10 Pokemon that need nerfs and buffs. And some Pokemon I feel are really balanced, even if they are in a higher tier. Like Cinderace, it's S tier, but I think that you can understand what it wants to do. It just wants to kick you down and do like crazy amount of auto attack damage. And since 80 carries are so rare in this game, I think it actually makes sense that if an 80 carry scales into the late game of Pokemon Unite, it's really strong. But then Cinderace is also vulnerable in the early game, and it doesn't completely dominate like some of these other Pokemon. So yeah, it's a very balanced, high tier pick. Greninja, a lot of people complain about Greninja as an 80 carry. I just see it like bounce around, do all kinds of things. Its Unite move is also pretty underwhelming. So I think it's like, yeah, Greninja in a perfectly fine spot. Talonflame, a lot of people consider S tier. I think that if you're going full damage Talonflame, you're too easy to like kind of just catch out and blow up. And if you're not going full damage Talonflame, well then you just have all this mobility that isn't translating to enough damage in team fights when other Pokemon like Machamp, Lucario, Garchomp just get into a fight and absolutely ruin it. Garchomp, when it's ulting, can legitimately like 1v9 or just take out multiple characters for free. It's Aatrox, Riven, mixed with Renekton and how much sustain and bruisery capabilities it has. But it actually ends up being balanced because melees are really exploitable in this game. We got Pokemon like Pikachu, Alolan Ninetales, Cinderace, Eldegoss, all these other Pokemon kind of running around. Garchomp is in a really strange state of being A+ balanced. I really wouldn't want to see too much of a nerf onto it. Lucario as well, like it starts dashing around, it gets crazy. I've seen some unacceptable things that like fed Lucarios have done in my games, but at the same time, like I feel like that Lucario earned it. I think there's more skill cap to Lucario than Absol, so Lucario's allowed to have as much power as it does, but then Absol gets more damage for less skill cap. No, that needs to go away. So we can talk about the Pokemon that need buffs next time. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.